again to the Cardiff City Phone In. We've got Rich, David, and Al, our regular panelists with us, and we're joined by a special guest tonight, Peter Kitchen, former City striker, and in some of our eyes, quite a legendary figure. And talking of which, I'll hand straight over to Al of Worthshire to take over this particular part of the evening.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I know your career inside out, Peter, as well, but I was just going to ask you, really, bringing things up to speed and up to the modern day, if you like, what you thought of the Cardiff City that you saw last weekend. I don't think it was our best performance, and certainly nothing like it was at Bradford, but I just wonder what you thought of us.
Well, I think they're the best side that I've seen so far. I've seen about 8 or 9 of the teams. They're very, very well organised, a good solid unit. They play as a unit, so they don't give many goals away. I think Salak up front looks a terrific striker. He's got a lot of strength. I mean, he was isolated a lot when you played at Orient, but I thought he did really well, and he could have had a couple more goals. I think there was one before we scored, and he was clean through, and he just had to lob the keeper, but I think he didn't hit it hard enough. And there was one right at the death when he got clean through, but he delayed his shot too much, got closed down, and laid it square. So, but he looks a terrific player. But I think I think the thing that stands out was that how well organised they were, a tight unit there. The only criticism I've got, and it's not just Cardiff, I think there's so many teams that do this, is they're obsessed with overplaying at the back. It's like they've all copied the Pep Guardiola model. And the difference is Pep Guardiola's got £50 million players playing at the back, and in League One, I think a lot of defenders in League One have probably failed forwards, but they make a career by playing at the back, and they think they're better than they are because of all the academies that have, the last 30 years in the academy has increased, sort of brought the lowest level up, but it's not made individuals, shall I say, out of players. Everybody seems to want to play the same way. Add that into the Pep model, and I think the goal that Orient scored was a diabolical goal to give away, just by overplaying. And I think they were very casual at the back. That's the only criticism I've got. I thought they were a very good unit, and to get a result at Bradford like last Saturday, I think that was a turning point probably in your promotion challenge. Not many teams beat Bradford, and I think Orient beat them, funnily enough, about 3 weeks ago at home, but Bradford could have been 3-0 up in the first half. And
we've seen Orient twice now this season. I think really, you don't deserve to be down sort of where they are. I mean, we mentioned before we came on here, Don Ballard, scoring a hat-trick against Reading on the weekend, and he's a hell of a prospect. I thought you were excellent when you played at our place as well. So the future's bright from that perspective as well. I don't know if any of the boys have got any questions to ask. So my questions are all harking back sort of 40 years. And I know that'll probably alienate half the people who are watching us at the moment. So
we'd love that. But talking of which, Rich told me earlier he's only in his early 40s, so he doesn't remember Pete in the way that we do. But he did have a question or two. Did you, Rich? I think.
Yeah. Well, it was two I could think of was. So Peter, I see football a lot these days as a largely non-contact sport, and it irritates me that you can't tackle anymore, or the art of tackling seems to be taken out of the game largely. Some of the soft challenges that go in nowadays, and you see players falling over themselves, is laughable. In your day, obviously, you could tackle from behind, and there was solid centre halves who'd give you a kick and everything else. Do
I remember them well.
Does it frustrate you these days when you watch football and you see that? See this? I know you've said about like centre halves trying to play out from the back and defenders keeping hold of him, thinking they're midfielders, etc., or failed strikers. Does it frustrate you when you see tackling almost being eradicated out of the game these days?
Well, I think there's a lot of it's changed from tackling now to shirt pulling and blocking, and there's physical contact, but it's not as physical as it used to be, shall I say? I can remember team talks when the manager used to tell the fullback, the first chance you get, put their right winger over the touchline, like you'll know Mick McCarthy from his days as your manager. I mean, he was the dirtiest centre half I ever played against. I mean, he was a nasty centre half. He used to spend the whole game coming up behind you, stamping on your foot when you're looking away, putting his studs down the back of your Achilles. It's just, and centre halves used to deliberately go up and give you a hard time. Now I think it's a little bit quicker because and it's the emphasis is on keeping the ball on the ground and passing it. As long as you keep possession, a lot of teams think that's the way to do it. But possession, if you look at Cruyff, he'll tell you possession is doesn't matter how much possession you have, it's what you do with the ball. And I think the game is ruled a bit by fear, so the emphasis is on not giving the ball away. But I think it's because a lot of it is players are the grounds are so lovely now. I mean, you could play snooker on them, couldn't you, a lot of the time? Whereas a lot of challenges in my day, it was mud. So, players used to enjoy sliding in. It was one of the highlights of the game to come in and slide through somebody and take them out. It doesn't frustrate me, but I think some of the way the players they say it's quicker nowadays, and at times it is, but a lot of the centre halves, they fanny around on the ball and they make passes that are not necessary. I think that's the biggest frustration I have, is I pass it 5 yards to somebody who's got two players next to him, and then he passes it back to me, and then I go back that way, and it goes back to the keeper. And there's not, I was brought up when you used to play, play and run, pass and run, and the first look should always be forward. And I still maintain that your first look should always be forward, first and foremost. I mean, if you can't do anything with it and there's nothing on, then go square. But, now they seem intent on just keeping the ball at all costs. And I think the game loses the excitement because of it.
Do you want to follow up on that, Rich? It's a good question.
I watched, funny enough, just along them lines, I watched Match of the 70s was on the weekend, and Saturday morning I was up early, and it was West Ham and Spurs, I think it was, and West Ham won 5-0, and Trevor Brooking was playing, but Billy Bonds was absolutely brilliant. And every time he had the ball, Billy Bonds, like you said, they weren't playing these square balls, they were straight over the top. And I noticed this season, Dylan Laura a couple of times has played these balls over the top. He done it for Dave Turnbull against Chelsea, but he played the ball over the top. And Turnbull got his head on him. We scored from that. And I like centre halves who are going to do that, and I just think sometimes, I echo what you say, Peter. I think sometimes I watch Cardiff and I think, for all the possession, we have 70-80% possession some games, like that Wigan game the other week. We had, I think it was 82% possession.
Yeah, I think against Wigan, I think it was 81%.
81. And we're winning 1-0, and you think, like, it's great as long as there's an end product with it. I also think as well, Peter, I often wonder, where does the hard men gone from football these days? Because there's no, like you talked about McCarthy stamping all over you and being a dirty player, there's no hard men in football anymore. There's no Roy Keane's, Patrick Vieira's, Vinnie Jones, and Vinnie gets a bad rap, but I actually think if you watch him play, he could play football a little bit, he weren't that bad, and I just feel as though that's gone from football nowadays. I'd like to see it come back. I think.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think a lot of players they've all come through these academies, and I mean I know because I used to coach part-time at Wimbledon when they're in the Premier League, and the emphasis is all on passing the ball, keeping possession, little plays, playing in triangles, all this sort of stuff, and there's never any emphasis on how can I say, on tackling. I mean, I can remember even as a young pro being shown how to do a straight tackle and how to do a sliding tackle. But you can't imagine them doing that now. They sort of almost just put the whole emphasis on your ability to play with the ball. And if you're not a natural defender, say, then you have to find out for yourself. I can remember when I was at Doncaster, we used to have a centre half called John Hazelden, and he ended up playing for a few clubs, and he became a physio at Notts Forest, and I used to keep getting elbowed in the side of the head, when the goalkeeper kicked it out of his hands, and the ball was a long ball, and I'd look to go and head it, and somebody would come right across me and elbow me, and I used to come off with bruises. And he said, stay behind a few days, and I'll show you how to unsettle defenders, how to make it harder for them to do that. And it was brilliant because he used to say, don't stand there and let them, don't be a target for them to come through you. What he said, keep looking to go behind them. Keep looking to so they can't see you and they don't know where you are, so they can't have a run at you. Little things like that, and how to turn people, how to field defenders. You put your hand back and you touch them, and then you push them away and you come off. All little things like that. I can't imagine that you get older pros doing that now with some of the youngsters. I think the game has lost that. And a lot of players, I don't think there's a lot of experienced players in the same way now. Lower league clubs can't afford to pay the money that experienced players are looking for. So, they tend to bring in young, promising lads who are still learning the game. And I think there's a loss of character, shall I say, in football because of that.
David, did you want to come in there?
That was really, really interesting, Peter. My single football injury as a right back is that, and that's pulling someone's shirt at Ely Racecourse on a Sunday morning, and I get as much pleasure out of seeing a well-timed tackle as I do almost from a goal, or good covering and this sort of thing. And that's very interesting about you would almost describe in the mentor role that the older lags, if I can call them that, would pass on. And we don't have those elder statesmen bringing it to Cardiff City. At the moment, we don't have, I don't know, a Sean Morrison, a Kavanagh, in that role. So the lads are all having to learn at the same time and grow mature together. 2 or 3 years' time, we'll be champions of the world. But at the moment, they're all growing and developing together.
Yeah.
So I noticed Lawler was, I don't know whether he was carrying a knock, but he was rested on Saturday. I just thought it was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something, Peter, about the current Cardiff City team. And we've said, the guys I sit with in our season ticket rows, we've said for a while now that they're missing, the one ingredient they're missing, and they have done for a couple of years, is that what you might call a fox in the box, a Chopra, an Earnshaw, a Dale, a Kitchen, that guy that shoves it in from 4 feet. Is that something you've noticed, Peter?
Yeah, I think football is very much fashionable, and it's like, like fashion anyway. And some players are in fashion, like Jimmy Greaves, Dennis Law. They were the players that I looked up to when I first started. And then gradually there was a change that, to players. It became much more physical, about the physique and about running in behind, big strong lads up front. And now I think it's evolved further, that they're wanting players to be all things. And I think because of that, you lose that expertise, of somebody who is a proven goal scorer.
They all want to play number 10, don't they?
Because they're asking them to do too much, shall I say. I think you should work hard off the ball to close down or to try and get the ball back. But I mean, I used to get criticised because I often didn't want to chase 40 yards back, because I was always playing along the back line, and I was always looking for the ball in behind, for somebody to just put it in behind or down the channel, and you're looking to get across, or you come short for it and then spin off, and you're looking like that. Well, all of a sudden your ball breaks down and it gets hoofed 30 or 40 yards forward, and then they're expecting you to sprint 40 yards to get back in. And then when you get back there, and then your team gets the ball again and they hoof it forward and you're not there.
And you're not there, yeah.
I mean, probably anybody that plays, up front, you understand that. It becomes, so in the end, I can remember when I signed for Orient. I mean, I was a natural forward that scored. I had three or four seasons scoring 20 goals, and I signed for Orient. And literally the second game I played for Orient in the first team, they sacked the manager, and they brought in another manager. And so I'm now having to prove myself again, because and I can remember we were playing against Derby County in a League Cup game, and we were playing away, and some of my old Doncaster teammates came to, I was chasing around and not playing as well as, how I expected to play and how I'd like playing. And some of my Doncaster teammates came to watch the game, and they said to me after the game, you've changed your game. You're not playing like you used to. You're chasing over there, you're chasing over there. And it struck a chord with me. And I thought, well, I've got to get back to doing what I know I'm good at. And whereas, the manager was saying to me, every time they get the ball, I want you here and I want you there. And you've got to get back there, and you've got to stop him playing. And the whole team talk was about stopping the opposition, not about what we were going to do as a team. And
did you like playing alongside a bigger striker? I'm trying to think. Would you have played alongside someone like Gary Stevens?
Yeah. I mean, I think I think you need to play with two strikers. I've watched so many games in the last few years where they all play 4-2-3-1, and you get one striker up front, and it's all very well if you're the team that's got the ball and you're on the front foot. But when you're, how can I say, when there's two of you, you can cause so many more problems, and you keep them busy instead of them sort of worrying about one, we've only got one player.
Would you enjoy playing alongside Salek?
Yeah, I would, yeah. I mean, I played along with the big fella at Doncaster, Brendan O'Callaghan, and played with Joe Mayo at Orient. And, in those days, a lot of the balls were pumped 40 yards further forward. So, used to, and most of the time it might go to Joe, and he'd get up there and he'd hold, bash people around and flick it on. And I used to try and pick up the second ball. And sometimes if I came shorter, and I'd hold it, link the play up, and then they'd knock a ball for Joe. So you cause a lot more problem for defenders by moving them out of position. Wherever they can sit in this nice little comfortable back three or back four, it's going to be a lot harder to score.
Well, Peter, we're loving what you're talking about, but I know Al wants to take you back to the olden days at Cardiff City Football Club.
The olden days.
And some
I
questions from
can't
the
help
fans
but
too.
Yeah, I can't help but think, going back when you were with the City, Peter, right, whether the club, I think, grossly mismanaged you, okay? Because when Billy Ronson came in over 100,000, you replaced Ronnie Moore over 100,000, you were top scorer, and then within 2 seasons we let you go on a free. And it just when I read about it, it just doesn't seem to make any sense. You're basically relegated to the reserves, scoring in the Welsh Cup against everyone, and I just can't understand what happened at Cardiff City, because the last game wasn't against Luton and we got relegated and you came on as a sub and so on. They could have made so much, or we could have made so much more of you. And when I look at it in retrospect, they could have built on that. There were some really good players there. I just wonder what you sort of think of it all.
Well, I mean, what happened basically is that when I came the first season, I signed, I think, at the end of August, so I'd missed a couple of games. But, I quickly got into the side. I think I scored on my first game against Chelsea. I'm not sure. I think it was the first game. And that season, I thought, we had the basis of a good side. As you say, Billy Ronson was a good midfield player, worked hard. Gary Stevens and I played quite well. We had Steve Grapes, Colin Sullivan, and we had the making of a good side. And I was quite happy. And then in the summer, because Richie Morgan was the manager and Brian Harris was his assistant. And in the summer, we heard there was a lot of financial problems at the club. And the chairman, Bob Grogan, I think he was, who was he was a Newcastle businessman. He put the block on signing anybody. So we were I think they brought in Paul Sugru or something, who from non-league. And that was the type of player they were bringing in. And we, first few games we weren't playing very well, and Richie Morgan was under a bit of pressure. They got rid of Brian Harris, who to me was the brains of the side. He was the football man. Richie had not played anywhere else. He'd been a Cardiff boy all the time, hadn't he? And he was commercial manager, and then got the job as manager, and
with 88 games.
Yeah, and I think it was obviously a cost-saving measure, which you've seen that with Vincent Tan for the last few years, you guys. And I think Richie wanted, I think he was under a bit of pressure, and I wasn't playing very well, but I wasn't getting much of the ball. We were under the cosh. We weren't playing very good football. And he left me out the side, and we were due to play Sheffield Wednesday, and he called me in and he said, I want you to go to Sheffield. You're going to be 13th man. And I said, well, I don't really want to go all the way to Sheffield and stay in a hotel, to be 13th man. Why don't you take one of the young lads, one of the promising young lads, give them the experience? And he said, are you saying you're not going? I said, no. I said, I don't want to go as 13th man, to sit in the stand. Take a young lad. And he said, you're refusing to travel. And he fined me 2 weeks' wages, and I got suspended for 2 weeks, fined 2 weeks' wages. And I said, I'm not having this, because it's not true. There's no way I would refuse to do it. If it had said, well, I really want you to go. But I think he was trying to make an example of somebody, to endorse his own position. And I said, well, I've offered to go. But he said, no, you've refused to travel. and it was in the papers, in the South Wales Echo and everything. So I took it to the tribunal, and after that, I mean, the tribunal, as they do, sat on the fence, and they said, "Well, we're reducing it to 1 week," so they didn't go either way. And after that, I'd lost all, respect for Richie, and I didn't want to play for him. And then about 2 weeks later, he got sacked and moved upstairs. And then they brought in, I'm not sure whether it was Graham Williams then, or whether
West Brom, is it?
It was Graham. He came in I think he came in later. I think they got Fred Davis and Colin Prophet, who were two. Fred Davis, who was at Bangor or somewhere like that, and Colin Prophet, and they took over for a few weeks, and then they brought Graham Williams in. It's the wrong. They brought Tony Book in, and Tony did quite well, and he brought in the Bennett brothers, which was a really good signing. They were good lads, and we started to do a bit better. But then Tony didn't want the job. I think he was a Manchester City lad, and he didn't want to give that up because he was an icon there, and a big hero, and so he didn't want the job. Then they brought in Graham Williams, and I was on the transfer list. I just said, look, I want to move, because you can't keep changing managers all the time. And I think I was out the side when Graham came, and so he didn't pick me for a few weeks, and then I think he had to pick me because there was injuries. And that's when I played against Wrexham and scored a hat-trick. And then I got back in the side, but they sacked Graham. And then they brought in, I think Bobby Woodruff managed for a few weeks as well.
Oh, wow.
And then they brought in the guy from, I forgot his name now, went to Sunderland.
Len Ashurst.
Len Ashurst, that's it. And they brought Len Ashurst in. And I was in the carried on playing and was doing okay. And I think we played one game under Len, and it was like, everybody gets behind the ball, and we played someone at home, and I can't remember who it was. We played for 88 minutes. And all we did was get behind the ball, and it was 0-0. And we were in trouble, and we should have been going for a win.
Yeah.
And then in the last couple of minutes, the high ball goes in, and Ron Healy goes up, and he lets the ball slip through his fingers, drops down. They toe poke it in. We lost 1-0. And I came off. I was so angry, and I said, you can't. What's the point in playing if you're not going to go out to win and have a go? And I went afterwards, and I said to Len Ashurst, look, I want to leave at the end of the year. I had another year of my contract and a £5,000 loyalty bonus to collect. And I said, you can have that. I don't want it. Just give me a free transfer, because I couldn't see, Bob Grogan was not going to spend any money. And during that time as well, he thought gives you an idea of what owners know about football. During that time, right, he thought we were lacking motivation, so he brought down Alan Wells, the sprinter, and Brendan Foster, the long distance runner, because they were friends of his from the northeast. And we were playing a game, and they came in before the game, and they gave us a motivational talk, right? And I thought, excuse language, I thought, I got to go away. This is a circus. The people, it's not a motivational talk. We're all motivated. We all want to do well. As a professional, You want to give 100% and play your best. And after that, I thought, this is a joke. So I said I wanted to leave, and that's why I left, really. But one thing I would say is I didn't particularly like Len Ashurst. I know he got promotion the following season, but I'll never. I mean, I'd got to the Welsh Cup final. I'd played in every round and scored a hat trick against Wrexham, and he knew I was going to leave, and I travelled down to Swansea, and I didn't know I wasn't playing. I thought I was in the squad. I might have been sub. And when we got down there, he said, "Oh, I'm not picking you." So I missed out on playing in the Welsh Cup final.
Oh.
But I'd always scored against Swansea, and managers never even think about that. Every time I scored, and managers never think. They don't think about these things. And same with Luton. If you look at my goal stats, I think Swansea I scored about 13 or 14 times against them, and the next one was Luton. So I've missed out on playing in the Welsh Cup final, and then the last match of the season we're playing Luton, and I get picked as sub, and I'm kicking my feet. I wanted to get out there. I thought, I'm going to. If I get on there, I'll score, and we were losing 3-0, and 20 minutes from the end, Len Ashurst decides to bring me on. I mean, it's a bit late, but you're losing 3-0. So I came on. Within 2 minutes, I went and scored. And 2 minutes after that, I actually made a goal. And, but we lost 3-2, and we had to win to stay up. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I had to say, I made a point of saying after the game, if I'd have played from the start, we wouldn't have gone down. So that's my claim to fame. Apart from scoring against the Jacks, that's my claim to fame.
That's all you need to do, Peter.
I would have kept us in the division.
Nothing else matters. You've done it. You're there. You're a legend now. Yeah. Just to say, I know you're short of time, Peter. Right, and I don't know whether I can see these questions from people. I just wanted to go through these, Al, if that's okay. I think you kind of mentioned it a bit earlier. Peter, you said about your favorite strikers in your career you enjoyed playing with. It would have been Joe and the other lad you mentioned, I guess.
Yeah, I think Joe Mayo first, because he was so much more mobile. He was very mobile. He was tall and slim, so he could get around. He was as brave as a lion and honest. When you play up front with a striker, you instinctively know when you can go for goal or when you can pass it to your strike partner. And Joe used to do that. If he was going up for a header and you could see he had a good chance of scoring, he'd go for a goal. But if he knew he was, off balance or whatever, he would look to lay it down or knock it off, or flick it on. It was just so unselfish in that respect. Brendan O'Callaghan was a very good player, good finisher, played for the Republic of Ireland. Not so mobile, but very, very good in the air. And Gary Stevens was a good
underrated, wasn't he? Very underrated as a player.
Yeah, he was underrated. I think he wasn't. I kind of say he wasn't muscular. He was a slimmer type of guy, and he wasn't particularly fast. He wasn't a nasty player either. He was a genuine good lad. But I don't think he was could have played higher. No. I don't think he could play high, but he was a good lad to play alongside. I mean, a lot of the time you've got to have the service. You've got to have people getting the ball in the box. When if you look at a game, how many times you see games where there's no. I mean, Wolves are a perfect example. You've got to get the ball in the box. If you get the ball in the box, you've got half a chance of scoring.
But I tell you, we love Peter. I tell you, we loved going on. I tell you, who we loved going on to that, and he set up the goal for you down at Swansea was John Lewis, and he was one of the first people I saw could do the step over, and it was quite, as a 10-year-old boy, seeing the City player do a step over was something to behold. It was something that other people did, but on his day, John Lewis could put in an absolutely superb.
He was. I mean, John was one of the better players in the side. I mean,
skillful.
Same. We had some good players, but I think they also released at the end of the first season. I think they got rid of Colin Sullivan. I think he left at the end of the first season there. And I don't think. I mean, Tarky was just coming into the side, but I don't think he was quite ready. And Paul,
Giles,
what's his name?
Giles.
No, Giles, he was in and out. He wasn't as good as his brother. He's a nice lad, but I don't think he was as good a player as David, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a question on the screen for you there now, Peter, from Steve Thomas, who, by the way, Steve, we're all thinking of you and your health at the moment, and hope you make a really strong recovery. Evening, Peter. I was lucky enough to see you score a number of great goals for Cardiff City. Do you have a favourite? And he goes on to say he's enjoying the show, which is nice. But I wonder if your favourite might have been at the Vetch Field by any chance, Peter. Just giving you a lead.
Yeah, I mean, scoring both the goals, one on Boxing Day in the 3-3 draw. Yeah, I mean, that was a wonderful day. And when Buki nearly burst the net and knocked the stand down, I mean, that was a hell of a strike. I don't think I've seen anybody hit a ball that hard. And you don't realize. I didn't realize when I first came how important and how much rivalry there was between the two clubs, and I picked that up. But the Vetch, I think, was the favourite because I think. I can still see the crowd.
Talk us through it.
It was a 1-1 draw.
I think I chased the ball just over the halfway line towards the left-hand side, and I got just outside the box, and I got a couple of their guys came over and I dummied as if I was going to come inside, and then back-heeled it to John Lewis, and and as soon as I did that, I sprinted to get in the box, because that's what you have. That's what you've got to do. You've got to get in the box as much as you can. And he just delayed it long enough for me to get into the box, and he brought it on his right foot, and then put the ball in. And my run was just came in at the right time. And I sort of did a diving header to try and cushion the ball rather than, trying to stretch to it. So and when it hit the net, I can still see the crowd just going berserk.
They were quite pleased, Peter.
I think so.
I was at that game, and I am prepared to confirm that I was quite pleased. Peter, can I ask you a question? My Peter Kitchen claim to fame is that I saw you score 5 goals in a Welsh Cup tie against Cardiff Corries. And you've mentioned the Welsh Cup a couple of times. How motivated were, the first team regulars to play against, Cardiff Corries, Sully, Dinas Powys in the Welsh Cup back in those days?
Well, I think, I think they perhaps were a bit casual, because that's how you tend to see it. I don't think they do it, say, in the FA Cup. Anybody that goes into an FA Cup game being casual and thinking they're going to have an easy game, and that's when you see all the cup upsets. But in that game against the Corries, I found it really motivating, because I actually ended up playing for the Corinthian casual vets when I retired from football. So there was obviously a Corinthian connection there. And to me, it was just another game to score goals. And, as a kid, I used to spend hours just whacking the ball in the net. I used to love it. It was one of them things, things that you just...
Take it seriously and professionally.
Yeah, loved it. Just whatever. Just there's no greater feeling in football than scoring a goal, and the crowd for the fans. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's another question here for you, Peter. But just before I pull this onto the screen, I don't know. As a professional footballer, do you kind of understand how exciting it is and how much we kind of love and admire you when you're playing for our club, and then when you put that ball on the net, it's just that one time in our entire lives. If you even got on the pitch, never mind scored a goal, you just living the dream from the fans' point of view.
I think at the time you don't realise it as much. It's when you look back now, and I mean, I'm fortunate that out of the 4 clubs that I played for, the 4 main clubs I played for, that at 3 of them, they all think I did really, really well. And so, it's like having a job and going into work and somebody appreciates what you do. And, nowadays I still go in and sign autographs and have photographs taken. And you look back and you think, God, that was fun. I wished I could take myself back and really appreciate it then. Yeah. But, and I'm not being big-headed, but when you score a lot of goals,
it's your job, isn't it?
It becomes, that's your job.
Yeah.
You've got, there's a great story, isn't there, by Cloughie, when somebody said to him, I've got this contract and I'm going to sign it, and he said, I'd like a goal bonus. And he said, well, what do you think I'm bloody well signing you for? As if you're getting a move to Notts Forest, but you're not as a striker. But it don't matter if you score goals. But if you're going to give you another 20 grand or something for scoring goals, and there's just nothing like scoring goals really as a footballer.
The question is from Philip Samuels, a very straightforward one. Kind of alluded to it a bit already, Peter. But who at that time, who were your best mates? When you were at Cardiff City.
Probably, I used to share cars with either Billy Ronson or Steve Grapes, because I lived in Lantwick Major, and we used to take turns in driving into training. So. Steve Grapes I knew him from when he played for Norwich, and we occasionally we'd go out. But when I came to Cardiff, I'd just gone through a divorce, so I didn't actually go out an awful lot on mine. I was with another partner, and so I had to spend more time. In the early days of relationships, you spend a lot of time, with you're not one of the lads all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Al change, since he got married. He's now on holiday all the time, isn't he?
That's, you just said, you got to spend more time, haven't you, I suppose, when you just get married.
Yeah.
I mean, once you've got the situation sussed out and what you can get away with, then there's more and more trips, to watch Wales away or somewhere, in Azerbaijan or like playing.
Or Orient away to the East End of London. I mean, that took some doing for me, that one.
Can I ask you, Al, just while we got Peter with us, right? Yeah. And by the way, his book, The Goal Gourmet, is a great read.
Hang on a second. Hang on.
Yeah. It's an excellent book.
It's in front of me.
The Goal Gourmet. Again, sorry, Al? Show that again, sorry, Al.
You can't see it. There we are, The Goal Gourmet.
Yeah, it's a really good book. Which Al and I have both read.
I wish I'd used that title myself.
That's when I was at Orient. That's because of the name Kitchen. When I was at Orient and scoring a lot of goals.
I see what you did there.
The fans got a big poster on, and they called me the Goal Gourmet. And when the guy who wrote the book was the historian at Leighton Orient, and I have to admit, I wrote that while I was working. with him, he'd ask me some questions. Go on, sorry.
I don't know who you were playing, Peter, but my favourite headline, let's say it was Chelsea, kitchen sinks Chelsea. I thought that was my favourite headline. Yeah. Very clever. Yeah.
Can I ask you, Al, because it seems we've got Peter at home with us at the moment, just from your point of view, I don't mean this in a weird way at all, because I think it was really lovely. When he went to the match and he met Peter and you know, the thing with the shirt and all that.
Well, I can tell you the background to it, okay? Because I'm a bit of a football anorak, okay? I'm just a little bit. And I was on a football nostalgia Facebook page, and this name popped up, and it's Peter Kitchen, and I was like, well, that can't be a coincidence. That's got to be Peter Kitchen. So I sort of like said, kind of, are you Peter Kitchen? Peter Kitchen, a bit weird. And Peter Kitchen said, "Yeah, I'm Peter. Yes, I'm Peter Kitchen." And I don't think, with the greatest respect, Pete, I don't think you realised how much of a sort of a legend you were down here. And then you got onto the City Away Days page on Facebook and so on, and so on and so forth. And then people like, you know, Mickey Villan and so on, we're all just like, this man's a legend. And then I think it just snowballed from there to the point where now, you know, if you weren't a great legend before, now everyone mentions Peter Kitchen. And it's a fantastic thing. It's the power of social media, isn't it? A lot of things. Because, you know, you post up your goal down at Swansea. Someone colorized that, didn't they? They put you into the blue kit on a black and white background and so on. Mickey Villan forever tagging you in things and so on. And it's great because, you know, for those of us, you know, they were formative years for a lot of us watching the City. And I mentioned it about you being mismanaged. My life watching Cardiff City's been mismanaged, even to.
I couldn't agree more. I think, to me, Cardiff is a sleeping giant of a club. And why somebody hasn't bought it, and say an Arab or, you know, an Arab ownership or whatever, and really put money in, because, you know, you get 35,000 every week just to start. If you start getting in the Premier League and winning, you know.
Going back then, Steve. Sorry, Peter. Going back then, how did the shirt thing come up? We'd spoken before COVID, and Peter said, "Look, if you come to London, we'd spoken and bits and bobs. He said, if you ever come up to London, this is a great story. He said, if you ever come to London, I'll give you the shirt." Now that was 7-8 years ago, right? Now I didn't tell Peter that I was going up to Orient. On the Wednesday before the Saturday, he got in touch with me and said, "I've still got that shirt," and I was just like, yeah, exactly. No, I said to my missus, she said, "Oh, you're going after the bloody nylon shirts again, you?" I said, "Yeah, but this one's really special, you know, because I've got quite a few bits and bobs." And that's what it was. Peter got in touch with me. I wasn't bugging him for the shirt. And then we met up there when we started the game, and it was just, you know, I was on bloody cloud nine when I went out the shirt, and still am.
I mean, to be fair, I think, you know, I'm not. When I played, I always set out to score 20 plus goals a season, and when I came to Cardiff, my intention was to do that. I got 19 in all competitions the first season, but I didn't think I'd played as well as I could do. You know, you all know what you think you can do, and I felt that I'd like to score more. But then the following season, because I was in and out of the side and the different managers chopping and changing, I felt that I hadn't done justice for myself and been fair to the club and to the fans. And then I think you contacted me after that finding me on social media, and then you sent me that photograph.
Yeah,
you know, you sent me a photograph from Wales Online, which is, you know, is a wonderful picture of that goal. So I had it framed, and I felt, you know, I'd like to, you know, do something. I mean, I'm sort of come up from a socialist background, and I really like your company and the way you operate. You know, I don't like sharks, shall I say. But, you know, I thought the way you, as a company, the way you treat your employees and that, it's fantastic. And so I thought, well, the shirt didn't mean as much to me because I played in the all yellow one. Not the one with the blue stripe down. And when I was leaving the City, I said to the kit man, I said to him, you know, I'd like to take a kit. I like to take a shirt as a memento. So he gave me a blue one. And I said, and what about a yellow one? And he said, well, we haven't got any left. We haven't got any of those. And he said, but I can give you one of these. And he gave me the yellow one with the blue and white stripe. So it didn't have as much resonance for me, but I could see what it would mean to you guys, because I thought that was a fantastic kit. A bit like Orient Spracers. They're iconic kits for the team. And then, from then I said I'd give you the shirt, and I actually even washed it. And and folded it all up so it didn't look like it, And
I had the two. It's all about me and you now. There we go. I bought when I sent you the big because I got it, the Wales Online photo. Obviously, I got that done to about 3 foot, didn't I? So I've got one here in the house signed by you. I don't know what my missus thinks of that either, really. But there we go. That's on the wall. That's actually on the wall in the house. And the yellow one's getting framed as well. And obviously you've got the other one done then. So yeah, it's great. And it's a proper action shot, isn't it? Everyone knows that sort of picture. But it's and as I say, it's I follow Mickey's online group, and I really like Cardiff. I love the city. I thought it was a fantastic city. I've only been back once when I went to see Doncaster in the Freight Rover final. I think it was the Freight Rover Trophy in 2007, and they beat Bristol Rovers. Oh, Johnson's Paint, that was it. Johnson's Paint Trophy, and I came back for a couple of nights, and we went. My partner and I went to the dock area where it's all been renovated. I've spoken with Roger Gibbons, because now they've got the former Players Association that they've set up. And I spoke to Roger Gibbons a little bit earlier in the season. I mentioned you, and he assured me everything was in hand, but I'm not really sure if it was, to be honest with you. But I've said, look, we'll get you next season. We'll get you there, and that could be in a cup game though, Peter. I'm afraid if we go up, but there we go. We'll get you down anyway. That would be great.
I think you'll go up. I think I'm fairly sure you'll get up. I don't think this is a particularly good league. I think that some of the defending is schoolboy. As I say, there's a lot of mistakes made from overplaying, and Orient are not doing well because of their defence. Their defence is so poor, but going forward, they're very good. And if they had a solid defence, they would have got promotion. I think they'd go up this year, but I think they're too far adrift now.
Do you regard Orient, Peter? Do you regard Orient as kind of your team now? Is that seems to be where your heart lies?
You're trying to wind him up now, aren't you?
No.
I think because when I moved, I never wanted to go to London, and when I was at Doncaster, I said I used to, a lot of clubs are supposedly interested, and I used to say, I don't mind where I go, but I don't want to go to London. And well, lo and behold, I ended up signing for Orient. But once I got down there, it was so friendly. There was no egos in the side. They were really good, honest people, and very friendly. And I just felt like it was at home. And I had a brilliant season, and I've lived in London ever since, or around London ever since. So, if I hadn't have lived around London, I'd have moved back north. I would have probably been more affiliation with Doncaster, or if I lived out your way, I'd probably come down there more. So I'd say Orient is my first choice because of the success we had.
Yeah. Well, that's lovely.
A bit like some of the Cardiff lads probably when you got promotion to the Premier League, and they got to the cup final, and those teams are probably they still drink together and meet up and everything.
Well, can I ask Peter, when you retired from football, obviously the book is just so well written, and you come across as such an articulate kind of thinking kind of person. What did you do? What did you go into when you came out of football?
Well, the first job I got, because I had to earn some money. Suddenly, you're earning so much money, and you've got mortgages and everything, and then you've got and first job I got was as a sales rep with an Asian owner, and he sold a job to me on. He was the supplier for Hummel, who were, and they were trying to get into the sports market at that time. Yeah. They had 3 or 4 teams, and he said we need to get into more football clubs. Perhaps you could that could be your job. So I took it on, and I had a couple of months when I was going around to sports shops and that, trying to get orders and sell it, and meeting up with various people. And suddenly the factory burnt down. And he said to me, well, I can keep you on. He said, but, you'll have to take a cutting salary. And I thought, well, I wasn't earning that much anyway. I said, no, it doesn't matter. I don't want to stay on. It turned out that we think, I don't know if it was ever proven, but we think that he deliberately burnt the factory down because he'd lost the contract with Hummel. But that's speculation. But I think there may be an element of truth in it.
Allegedly.
And so then I was looking for a job, and I lived near Harlow at the time. I lived in Epping in Essex, and I saw a job as a sports development officer, and I thought, because when I left grammar school at 18, I got 3 A levels, 10 O levels.
Wow.
And I just went into football because that's the opportunity that came up. And I thought, well, I'll try and get into sports management. And I went for an interview for the job, and the guy, funnily enough, I was fortunate. It was totally by accident. The guy who interviewed me was a guy called Chris Lightfoot, and he was. I didn't know he was leaving at the time, but he was used to run soccer coaching schools in America, and he was leaving to go out there and do it full time. Anyway, he gave me the job. So I started as a sports development officer and running summer holiday play schemes and things like that. And then he told me, he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm leaving in a month's time." He said, "But if you want to get on in this field, you're going to have to go back to college and upskill yourself with qualifications." And so he said, "I've signed you off on a day release to do a postgraduate business diploma."
Wow.
So I said, "Yeah, okay, that's great." So I did that. A couple of years I did that. And then once I got the qualification, I applied for a job and I became a manager of a leisure centre, and then became contracts manager. And when the government introduced all the competitive tendering, I actually became a contracts manager, then operations director, and we set up our own leisure trust. So I did that for about 6 years, and so it was a whole new career, really. It's about 25 years. And I coached part-time for Wimbledon for about 10 or 12 years. And I played masses of football, vets football. I played for the Corinthian Casual Vets. I played with Rod Stewart, Vagabonds. I played with the TV Commentators 11, and I still see all those guys, every Christmas.
Is Rod any good, Peter?
Pardon?
Is Rod any good?
He was. Yeah, he was. He used to play on the right-hand side of midfield. Yeah, he was a good player. And what was great about it, we'd play on this pitch in the grounds of his mansion, and then afterwards on a Sunday we'd all go down the local pub, and he'd get his wife to drive him down in his Maserati one day or whatever he was going to drive.
It's like that in Pentwyn where I live.
Yeah. Similar dynamic, I'm sure.
But yeah, he was a good guy. I mean, as he's become knighted and everything now, he's become a bit of philanthropist, hasn't he? And
Yeah.
you know, he's funding lots of different things.
Elder statesman.
It's funny, isn't it? All these guys that drank themselves to oblivion, womanized, snorted cocaine, smoked dope, you know, lived these rock star lives, and then all of a sudden they get knighted, don't they? You know, Elton John.
Well, there's hope. There's hope for me yet. The services.
Well, on that note, right, we didn't get on to Bradford tonight, and we didn't get on to talking about to Stockport, but Peter was only going to come on for 15 minutes, and we've had a fantastic. We've overrun just chatting with Peter. It's been a fantastic show. Thank you, Peter, ever so much for doing it tonight. And what you said about your career doesn't surprise me in the slightest. You know, because you just come across as being, you know, a bright guy. It's probably why football managers maybe you did the head, and maybe you were too bright for them. But,
well, I sort of. No, I think it was a sense of fair play. The one thing I've got, my dad gave me, was a sense of fair play. He was a coal miner, and he used to say to me, you know, you get yourself in, you know, in his Yorkshire accent, you know, don't thee go bringing police on to us. You know, if I'm going to do something, don't let anybody catch thee, and that sort of attitude, you know. And but he had a sense of fair play, and he was, you know, he hated Arthur Scargill. He thought he was the worst thing for miners. You know, because he thought he ruined the coal industry by his attitude, you know. So.
The police rang my father once and he said, "Oh, no, not again." I thought, great.
Right. Anyway, thank you all very much. It's a totally different show, but thanks again, Peter, for coming on. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it.
It's a pleasure. And
thank you so much.
I'll come back again when you get promotion.
Yeah,
and I hope I'll get down to a game.
We'll see you in March then.
No, I'm off on holiday. I'm going to meet Al out somewhere. I'm sure our paths will cross on holiday somewhere.
Well, hopefully so. You'll recognise me. I'll be the guy in the yellow top. Okay.
Yeah.
Cheers, all. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nice to talk with you.
This channel is powered by an incredible membership community on Cardiff City World and patreon.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Becoming a member unlocks exclusive rewards from early access to live event tickets, bonus content, and even the occasional insider transfer scoop when we get it. But more importantly, it allows us to bring you top quality Cardiff City content 7 days a week. Across those 7 days, we're talking match previews, exclusive interviews, instant match reactions, the breakdown podcast, tactical deep dives, the spotlight series, Bluebirds Rewind, Academy Focus, and just so much more. Led by myself, backed by an army of passionate Cardiff City fans, this is content created by fans for fans, balanced, professional, and 100% all about the club we all love. If you enjoy what we do, then join the community today and support what we are doing as we help to keep Cardiff City World flying high.